Okay, good evening, everybody. We are here to talk about the Apex Metadata API, and before we get started, the last session that Vladimir did, we had about 3 times as many people here, so before we start, I'd like everybody to leave and bring in 2 more people, and then we can get going. I really appreciate everybody being here during the happy hour time slot. We will do our best to make it worth your while. My name's Aaron, I'm the product manager for this product, and here with me is Prasad. He's one of the key engineers who brought this from the idea to the reality that we are about to show you. So before we get going, I want to show the forward-looking statement. This says basically don't make any investment or purchasing decisions based on things that we may say about what's coming in the product, and only based on what's available now. So the Apex Metadata API started to get momentum when Andy posted this idea. Andy Fawcett posted this in IdeaExchange a few years ago. And it garnered, since then it's garnered more than 7,000 votes. And if you're familiar with IdeaExchange, then you probably know that some of the top ideas are 50 or 60,000 points, and this looks relatively small to that. But if you think about who's voting on this, it's basically developers, and in particular, pretty heavy tilt towards ISV developers. So it's actually a very small community compared to the full Salesforce community of admins and developers. And also, of course, the developers who are using this are having an outsized impact on the orgs that they're going to be creating this in. So really, if this were actually properly weighted, this is really a blockbuster feature, and we're very excited to show this to you today, and can't wait to hear what you think about it. So how many people have actually tried this out yet? It's been out for a couple of months in developer orgs. All right. Okay, we got at least 4. Awesome. We released this in response to this idea from IdeaExchange, and based on the data that we got as far as the request from this is driven by essentially 3 use cases. And the biggest one is that developers want to create custom setup UIs for the apps. The apps that you all are creating are different from the CRM apps that we've created and that we've built our setup menu for. And so you want to create a setup experience that's in line with what an admin is going to want to do to customize your app. The second biggest use case is for upgrades. A lot of times after an upgrade is taken from an ISV app, an admin will need to go in and make some manual changes, and we want to provide more ability to automate more of those steps in the upgrade process. And the third use case is for self-configuring apps. So basically what this means is that when my app gets installed in a subscriber org, I want to take a look at how that org is configured and then make some decisions about how I'm going to configure myself based on that. And these are all the things that we are making possible with the Apex Metadata API. So we're going to get in a demo soon, and what we're going to show you is the ability to create and update custom metadata types and page layouts. So I want to be clear here that we have not exposed the entire metadata API in Apex. We are we're whitelisting the types that we're going to support. We will be adding support for more types over time. We will probably never expose the entire metadata API in Apex for some security reasons that I'll talk about later in the presentation. But out of the box right now in the summer release, we have support for custom metadata types and page layouts, and we'll talk later about some of the ones that we plan to add going forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Prasad, and you're going to show us some. I'm going to put on my admin hat at this point, I guess, and you're going to give us a demo of an app that I recently bought. And it has some features that I've never seen before. This is a park management app. Like all good admins, I bought a park, and I have this app to manage it. And I actually expected to have to go into the Salesforce setup menu and do a bunch of stuff to configure it, but I saw this menu here, and I wanted you to come and just show me what this is about and how it was created.
Sure, Aaron, and congratulations on your park, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. It's my first one.
Yeah, so this setup wizard is going to create a record of custom metadata type park features. If you notice, it's already there. There are no records already installed here, and the setup wizard is going to do it for you.
So when I installed the app, I did see that the custom metadata type was there and it had no records, and I wasn't sure what that was about.
Right.
So I guess you're going to show me that. Okay.
Yeah, let's go back to the wizard. So in your park, do you allow camping?
Yeah, we allow camping. We allow RVs. We have water. We don't have electricity. We don't want anybody charging their phones and watching TV when they're in our park.
You got it.
We have a lot of bears.
Sweet.
And basically, yeah, a lot of grizzly bears. And yeah, those defaults are good. That's when we open, that's when we close.
Great.
Wow, that's it?
That's it.
So what just happened?
So based on all your choices, it has created a metadata record. So let's go back.
So your UI created a record for me.
Yes.
So this was never possible before. The only way to create a record is either install it from a package or for me to go into the setup here and manually create it. And you
Exactly.
just created it from the code that's in your UI.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
the Apex controller that's controlling the wizard.
Wow, that's very cool. So, because I have a lot of other apps. I mean, this is a pretty simple app, but I have a lot of other apps. When I create a record like this, I then would want to go and create 10 more, and each of them have to look up to this record and have to put all those settings in there. With what you've shown me, you could actually write some code that when I create this record, if it has other dependencies it needs, it'll create all those and give me a page where I can fill in all the data and make a 20-minute job into about a minute and a half.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So that's really excited. I'm really looking forward to seeing this in other apps. But now that I've got this app installed, one of the things that I don't really like doing is, all these apps, they get these great upgrades, they get all these new features, but then when I need to go and upgrade my app, it's not always the most convenient thing to do. So, and I'm guessing you're gonna have some more features on this. I've heard you got some stuff coming and I'm gonna have to take an upgrade. I'm not really looking forward to that.
Well, let me show you another demo that does exactly the same scenario that you've described.
Okay.
So this is my dev org that has an Apex Metadata API sample in as a type. It contains just one packaged record. It's also part of the package.
This is your managed package, right?
Right.
And you have a metadata type with one record in it. It's
exactly
called package record. That's helpful. Okay.
It also has one custom field on account.
On account, all right.
Right. So I've already uploaded it so that I can just squeeze through. Before that, let me show you the subscriber org that I'm going to install it to.
Okay.
It does not have any metadata type in it.
So this is a subscriber org. There's nothing. There's no metadata types in it. Okay. And the account object that.
It does not have any custom fields, and if you notice, there are no underscore Cs.
No underscore Cs. So these are all just standard fields on the account object right now. Okay. And so the app that you showed me, is going to create a custom metadata type with that record and put a custom field on the account.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems, like I'm pretty used to all that stuff.
All right.
All right, so that's installing. And so what's special about this app? I mean, it's gonna create the custom metadata type. It's gonna install the metadata type, install the record, install the field.
Yeah. So what it's going to do is it will run a package upgrade skill will run after the package deployment, and it's going to create a custom metadata record.
Yeah.
And update your layout with the new custom field that you added for the account.
So I'm not going to have to go add that field to the page layout myself?
You don't have to do it by yourself.
Wow, okay, that'll be a first. So how does it do that?
Yeah, while it's being packaging is installed, let me take you to the code.
There you go.
Right, so this is a package upgrade script that just does a deploy.
So that's a deploy. Like, I mean, I hear all my developers talking all the time about doing deploys. Is this what you're doing now?
It's exactly the same thing. ISV developers are already aware of it. Yes.
Okay.
ISV developers are already aware of such scenarios. So there are several classes related to this. We'll just focus on the ones that are important.
Okay.
It has a deploy container. The deploy container is responsible for holding all your metadata together before deployment. We created a new instance of custom metadata record and a layout that updates our existing account layout and adds a custom field to it.
Okay.
And does an enqueue.
So
the callback.
So you're creating a metadata container, stuffing a bunch of metadata in it, and enqueuing a deploy.
Correct.
And okay, now what else is it?
Yeah, it has it has a callback that is triggered after the metadata deployment is done.
All right.
So let me show you how a callbacks look like. You need to implement Apex interface deploy callback, and you have your deploy result with all the information about the components that you just deployed.
Okay, and that's it?
That's it.
So you just showed me, I think, 30 lines of code, and 15 of them were comments.
Right.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Okay, let's go back to the subscriber org. Oh, okay, let's hope it's done. It's not.
So we're in my subscriber org now?
We are in the subscriber org, and it seems it's not yet installed. It's embarrassing. Let me install it again.
You-
Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I need to consult Vlad for some more jokes here.
Yeah.
You got a couple more jokes? You want to take the microphone? All right, so what I'm expecting to see is the metadata type with the record and another field, a new field on the account object. And what you've promised me is that instead of having to go into the page layout on account and adding that new field to the page layout, which is what I usually do in these cases, that it's actually going to be on the page layout.
Correct.
And you've also told me that you're going to use the script to create another record of a custom metadata type in addition to the one that's packaged.
Yes.
So if you can package records of custom metadata types, why on earth would I want a script to create one for me?
Good question, Aaron. So in 2 months, we are going to release an upgrade, which needs an information like what kind of bear you had in your park and all those things. And these special information cannot be packaged as a part of the upgrade. And so this logic can be moved to package upgrade script.
So your script is, when you install your app, it's going to look at my settings and say, oh, you have bears in your park, you have grizzly bears, and then it's going to configure the app based on that.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty awesome. I look forward to getting that upgrade.
This is not working. Oh, there you go.
And
so
I look forward to seeing what you've installed too.
Sure. So let's refresh it. So you see the type is already installed, and unfortunately that deployment is not yet done.
Okay.
But what you would be seeing is one more record
so the package is installed and we're waiting for the deployment to happen. But then we'll see the other record come up. All right, well, we can check on that later.
Sure.
Just to prove it actually happened.
Yep.
We've got a good track record on demos in this room so far. So if I step out of my admin role and back to product manager, what you partially saw and what we'll hopefully finish showing you in a little while, there's some things that you need to be aware of and some nuances around using the Metadata API in Apex. The most important one to remember is that the code that is doing a deploy is doing it on behalf of the subscriber org. So your managed package has Apex in it. It's going to do a deploy. It's doing it on behalf of the subscriber. And so when you're writing your code and you're asking yourself, what is this package going to be able to do? What can it do? What permissions does it have? And what does it not have? Put yourself in the shoes of an admin or a developer in the subscriber org and ask yourself that question, and you'll mostly get the right answer. There's 2 exceptions to this. The first is that even though it's doing a deploy on behalf of the admin, the setup audit trail will show that the deploy was done by your package. So the subscriber org will know that your package is responsible for that metadata. The other exception is that your package can see and modify protected metadata inside your own package. So the subscriber org, of course, the point of protection is they can't see that metadata, but your package and your code can see and modify the protected metadata in your package. So that's the other rule that's the other time that this rule doesn't apply. But basically, if you think of it as doing a install on behalf of the subscriber, you won't go wrong.
I got an email that the deployment is done.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Let's see what it looks like.
By the way, that was a part of the install callback.
That was a callback. Okay. So it called you back. That's great.
Yep.
And you had it on mute, so I didn't even know.
Yep.
No, it was Twilio that called us.
All right. So this is a subscriber record that was installed as a part of the upgrade script.
Okay, so this is the record that was installed by the script, and I can see now here that you don't have the package icon next to it,
Yep.
and it doesn't show that it was part of the package namespace. So this was installed on behalf of the subscriber.
Correct.
Rather than, okay.
So let me take you to the account that it was installed on.
Yeah.
So if this earlier it didn't have any fields in it, and the layout must be updated by the upgrade script now.
Yeah.
Let's see. There you go.
All right. Wow. So that field that was in the package and got installed as usual,
Right.
It actually also got added to the page layout, which would have never happened before.
Right.
Wow. That's, that was worth the wait.
So so we also have a setup audit trail that tells you what package was responsible for doing all these metadata deployments. So if you notice, the source namespace prefix is the one that did the metadata deployment on the subscriber's behalf.
Okay.
And that's all the developers need to know.
Right. So even though the deployment was done on as if it were me as an admin, it's showing the namespace of your package that did the deployment,
exactly.
so I can track it that way. Okay, that's great. Very cool. So we just saw that the exception to that rule, the setup audit trail there. All right. So another thing to keep in mind is that we've is to know which packages can actually use this by default. So there's a new setting in setup now, Apex settings, and this allows you to control what happens with a non-certified managed package. So certified managed packages are able to do a metadata deploy in a subscriber org because they've been through a security review by Salesforce. We've looked at the package, we verified it, we know we have a relationship with the vendor, and we consider this to be something safe. If it's unmanaged code, that's code that you can review and you can vet, and it's something that we want you to allow to do a metadata deploy from. In the middle, the uncertified managed package, that's something that if you don't know where it came from, or you know where it came from but you can't see inside of it, you don't know exactly what that app is going to do. So by default, the uncertified managed packages cannot do a metadata deploy in the subscriber org. There are a couple of cases, however, where you might want it to be able to do that. And the first is if you are an ISV and you're developing a package and it hasn't yet been certified, you want to test it. Then you can go and flip on the setting in setup, and it will allow you to do that deploy. And the other case is if you're an enterprise and you're using managed packages to manage your app across multiple orgs, then you're going to want to be able to do a deploy even though that's not a certified package. So we put all these things in place to ensure that only trusted packages are actually changing the metadata in your org on behalf of the subscriber. And we've talked about a few of these things already, but a huge part of the design around this was thinking through the security implications and making sure we had them covered. Safe metadata types, I mentioned earlier, we are not planning to expose the entire metadata API in Apex. And the primary reason for that is that we don't want developers writing code that can in turn write code. So if you're writing Apex, if you have Apex in a package that can write Apex classes, can create Apex classes or can create Lightning components, it makes it very difficult for our security team to figure out what's going on with that package and to be able to certify that this is a safe and reasonable package. So we will extend, you saw the 2 metadata types we support. We will add support for more metadata types over time, but we don't plan to ever expose the entire metadata API through Apex. The setup audit trail you saw, the trusted apps we just talked about. Well, one last thing is to be aware of is that ISVs are going to be required to alert subscribers if they're using this tool so the subscriber knows that the package can modify metadata in their namespace. And so customers can have this assurance, and for ISVs, this is something, if you're an ISV, you should be aware of this, and I've got a link to documentation at the end that'll give you more details on how exactly to do that. So if you look at this, this is showing you what editions can use the Apex Metadata API. As you'd expect, Performance Unlimited and Enterprise editions can do everything we showed you. For group and professional editions, in the columns of the orange headers, these editions cannot author Apex and they cannot use the metadata API. They can, however, install ISV packages and they can execute Apex that is in the ISV package. And because of those things, it can also execute a metadata API deploy that is in an ISV package. So if you are a developer at an ISV, any org that can install your app will be able to use this functionality. You don't need to do anything special for group or professional edition orgs. That was your request.
I'm really happy about it.
So there's a lot of benefits to this feature. We spent a lot of time looking at the faster, easier setup. The stuff on the right-hand column are a bunch of other stuff we didn't spend a lot of time on, but these are also huge benefits of this feature. Giving developers the ability to create these simple UIs means that the app is much easier to configure by admins. So in the past, I might have had a whole bunch of professional services people come into my company and do a complicated setup, and then they leave. And then as an admin, it's really hard for me to make modifications to that later. Giving the UIs like this to the admin mean that they can continually update and make changes to their configuration over time. We do expect for ISVs to see increased adoption. When customers are trying apps, if they don't know whether they want it or not, they're really not going to invest a lot of time in setting it up to try out the things they want to try. Giving them a much easier way to set up and configure the trial for their use cases should result in more conversions of ISVs. We do expect to see customers getting more of the latest features as upgrades become easier. And this also, since you can modify records of custom metadata types natively in Apex, you now have the ability to hide more of your configuration data. So custom metadata types, you can have exposed records or protected records. If you have intellectual property or if you have API tokens, you want to put those in protected records. The problem is in the past then you had no way to modify those once they were in the org other than a package upgrade. There were workarounds to change other metadata, but hidden metadata, there's no way that you could modify it in the subscriber org. So now you can create a UI that shows whatever aspects of that metadata you want to show and allow the admin to make some changes, and then you can update the protected settings there. And finally, the less reliance you have on remote site settings, which is one of the previous workarounds for this, the simpler your code will be. So I want to take a quick look at the roadmap. We're actually very, very excited that there's a lot of stuff in the left-hand column, what's out there now in the summer release. We covered most of this stuff. One of the things we didn't show you is the synchronous retrieve, but we talked about the update and the create and update, the callback, the supported metadata types, the trusted apps, and the audit history. What we have coming in spring, and you'll notice there's a gap there, we don't have any features planned for winter, so as you're doing your planning, just be aware that what you see now is what you're going to get for a little while. And this is because the team worked really, really hard to get this all into summer, and they all had to take the next release off. Now, in the spring release, one of the top things we want to add is a polling API, so you can track the deploy status, and that'll make it so you can refresh pages after the deploy is completed. And we're going to add support for more metadata types. The two that are at the top of the list are pick list values and custom fields. The requests that we got the most requests for overwhelmingly were custom metadata types and page layouts, which we've delivered, and pick list values and custom fields. Those are next on the list. We know that there is a long tail of metadata types that people want supported. I was just talking about some of them here before we got started in the session. And so we actually want to get your help in understanding what the next set of priorities are after those two. Before we get to that, one last thing to be aware of is that we currently don't have delete on the roadmap. So if something gets created that you would want an admin to delete at some point, they will have to go into the Salesforce setup UI to do that. I would love it, though, after the session tonight or tomorrow, if you go into success.salesforce.com, go to the Apex Metadata API group, tell us what you want to build, tell us what metadata types you need supported, and what use cases you want to use those for. And the more detail you can give us around the use cases, the better data we'll have as we prioritize this set of types that we want to get supported after pick list values and custom fields. So we'd love to hear from you on that. We'd also, of course, want any other feedback you have about what you like, in particular what you don't like, so we can continue to enhance it. To get more information on this, we got a bunch of different documentation out there in the developer guide and security guides. I mentioned the community group. There's a couple blog posts that I've put out, and I've got more coming out, as well as some other people in the company. Trailhead, I mentioned the custom metadata types Trailhead here because we know that there's a lot of developers that have held back on really embracing custom metadata types waiting for this feature. So now that this feature is here, all the excuses are gone, and if you're one of those developers who's been waiting to take a look at custom metadata types, please do it now, and you can check out the Trailhead to learn more about that. We do also plan to have a Trailhead for the Apex Metadata API coming later in the year. And the best thing, of course, is seeing is believing. Go get a DE org and give this a spin yourself. So we're going to head into Q&A now. Before we do that, though, I wanted to invite Rahm up. And many of you know of Rahm as the inventor of custom metadata types, the subject of the previous session. Rahm, why don't you come on up? He was also the driver behind the architecture and design of this feature as well. So he's brought a ton of value to our developer community. And so I just wanted to thank him and recognize him for that, and also have him on the stage with Prasad and myself for part of the QA session. All right, so thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So one of the issues with the current metadata API is that it requires the create data or modify all data permission whatever, so that you can't have like a UI that you make like a similar sort of UI there, where you'd have a regular non-admin user do it and then be able to create metadata from that. Does the current one have the same limitation? Do you require that permission, or can you just create metadata from whatever?
So since this is Apex, you can kind of do whatever you want for it and put the permissions.
Aaron,
and,
that's not quite true.
Well, I was going to tell you where the catch is on that, but the metadata API permissions are enforced. So your code, you could write code that would you would think would let an end user do it, but it will be blocked by the metadata API. So only admins who have permission to do this will do this, and that's for security reasons. You do have the ability to actually read to give end users the ability to read metadata, and there's going to be some pretty key use cases in the future that, especially once we have custom fields supported, and you can show them, some of the enhanced data that you have around custom fields in the metadata API that you don't get into describe. But the deploys, the create and update is only available to admins. Yep. So we hope we've walked the right line there of security and usability.
Yeah, you mentioned, can you edit any metadata tags that are outside of your namespace, so can I add a field on account, for example?
Yep.
So I can touch anything.
So yes, you can. I mean, you saw us add a field, well, we didn't add the field through this script. You can't add a field now because we don't support it, but when we do support custom fields, you will be able to add that. Yeah. We changed the page layout that's in the subscriber namespace. So again, you are basically operating on behalf of the subscriber, so if the subscriber can change it, you can change it.
Can you potentially add a field on a managed, an object in a managed package of another package even?
Yes.
You can even do that.
Yeah, Yeah, and
You can't, of course, see anything that's protected.
Right.
So.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
But you really have full access.
yeah, yep.
Also, would it make sense that to open up more of the metadata if the code is not part of a managed package? I mean, if the code that's being run is not part of a managed package, so there's no security risk there.
Right.
Would it make sense to maybe in such cases allow for more metadata
We do.
to be exposed? Oh, you do?
Yeah. The non-packaging case, I mean, it's unmanaged code. So it's code from an unmanaged package. It's code that was developed locally.
Well, sorry, I don't. What do you mean by?
Can you you said you don't want to expose too many parts of the metadata because of that risk.
Right.
of the managed package.
Yeah.
It's harder to do
So-
that.
We were talking about earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The types. Yeah, that's I think a little bit different, just because
Yeah.
it's hard to.
So we don't currently intend to have a differentiation between what's exposed to managed packages and to unmanaged code, but that's something that we can take into consideration. Yeah.
Non-namespace, just code in a subscriber org that could have access to more metadata types than any packaged code could. That would really help
Yeah.
us with the use cases we're talking
The ones you were talking. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
And it probably could be done. It's just a matter of getting
Yeah.
it
Yep.
in the right place.
There's a metadata wrapper from financialforce.com.
Right.
It gives you like complete access to everything. It's just a little hard to handle.
Yep.
But it really does give you already full access.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and Andy, the same guy who inspired this, is the guy that created that. And despite the fact that he wrote that and he pushes it, he's also pushing us to basically obsolete it for him, because it is difficult to handle. Yeah. Yes.
Does it share the same limits with the Metadata API? For example, the number of records you can write at the same time in a single request?
I believe it does. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Maybe we can change that in the future. The limits 10 is kind of low.
Yeah. We.
I mean, you could easily, in a callback, deploy another batch of records.
Okay, so just count, just keep calling.
Yep. That's probably how I do it.
Yeah, and the question is whether it has the same limits as the metadata API does, and it does. Yes.
You didn't go over the retrieve at all, but from a retrieve perspective, would it be more, like he's saying, easier to expose more metadata objects for retrieve and not deploy because you're not worried about it?
Yeah, that's something we, looking ahead, we might do that. In the short term, we don't plan to do that because everything that we want to get onto the whitelist is stuff we also want to support for deploys. But once we worked on that list, we might want to offer read capabilities, but not write capabilities, the stuff that's a little more risky. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. When we worked on that list, we'll probably get there at some point, but not in the near future. Yes.
So you touched on the security implications of opening up some of the rest of the Metadata API.
Yeah.
Are there any dangers to using something like the financial force wrapper in an ISV package? Do you think that we can flag for security review using some of those features?
So the question is there any danger in using something like the financial force metadata API wrapper in an ISV package, correct? Yes. The answer is yes. And
Yeah, I think historically, as long as your package, like that sample, specifically tells the user on like the post install page that if you use anything in this package, it's going to change your metadata. In the past, I believe they have passed some applications like that. But I'm not sure I would totally count on it.
Yeah, it's strongly frowned upon because it requires remote site settings, which then opens up the subscriber org, and it doesn't have the protection of the setup audit trail tracking the namespace. It does give access to the whole metadata API. So the security team, it depends exactly how you're going to use it, and sometimes you can negotiate that with them. But if you want to do that, you should definitely talk to the security team first and find out what they will let you get away with.
Yeah, no, that's one real advantage of this, is that it's because of we've put security things in place. Security team is much happier about the prospect of using that than.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate you, again, giving up your happy hour or your nap time if you're on an East Coast time zone, whatever it might be. And please join us in the success community in the Apex Metadata API chatter group and let us know what you want and what you like and what you don't like. Thank you.